This is my first hive inspection, and I wanted to bring you guys along with me on the journey. So right here, I am using my smoker to lightly smoke the entrance. It sends the bees back inside the hive so that I can easily work the hive and not have bees flying out everywhere. The smoke signals to the bees some sort of distress, and they go down into the hive and gorge themselves on honey because they don't know what they're gonna have to do, whether they're gonna have to leave the hive or what have you. Once I take off the top cover and the inner cover, I'm gonna put some smoke on the top as well. And my hive is made up of 2 brood boxes right now. There's a bottom box and a top box, and inside that top box, I am doing an inside feeder. The inside feeder is just to provide the bees with a little sugar water until the flow of nectar and pollen starts really getting going. So here's just a little smoke to help the bees go down. And I went inside and grabbed my queen excluder because as we took off the top cover, we saw that the bees were starting to build burr comb up. And instead of drawing the comb down on the frames like we want them to, they were doing it up, which we're trying to discourage them from doing. So at the end of this inspection, I'll put my queen excluder in between the bottom box and the top box. Here you see the sugar water mixture that I have taken out. The other person in this video is my mentor that I met at my beekeeping society meeting, and I was lucky enough to have him come help me on my first hive inspection, but after this one, I'm going to be flying solo. Alright, so now that that top box is off, you can kind of see the wax that the bees have been building on top of the frames, which is the behavior that we want to discourage, and we want the bees to build down. My setup is an 8-frame Langstroth hive, and you can see on the right hand side of my box there's 5 frames that it looks like are of different color. Those are the ones that were in the nook that I bought. The 3 that we're working on first are the empty frames that originally came with my hive. As we inspected these, we saw that the bees hadn't really taken to these frames yet. So if by my second inspection we don't have any bees drawing comb on these frames, we're gonna have to help them out a little bit. And the way that we do this is spreading some of the bees' wax over the frames. One of the other things that I should have done differently upon installing my nook into this hive was to essentially checkerboard my frames. So I would have put 1 empty one on the end, followed by 1 or 2 full frames, and then put another empty one. So that way the bees kind of, when they see that empty one, they essentially think, oh no, and they start working on those frames that are empty. Alright, so now we're going to get into the 5 frames that were part of the original nook. And we are using a hive tool right here because the bees have a tendency to glue the frames together using propolis. Propolis is often referred to as bee glue because bees use it to fill holes, to smooth surfaces, and it essentially glues pieces of the hive together. Alright, so we're just going to put a little bit more smoke, and I'm still working on getting used to my smoker. In the very beginning of my inspections, I really get my smoke rolling, but throughout the inspection it seems to die off a little bit, so I've got to get some more practice on that. Alright, so I'm using my Hive tool to separate the frames here. And now I can easily grab it. It's free of the other frames and it'll come right up. This frame was full of bees and had a lot going on. The reason we stepped out into the sun was to get the sun shining through the frame. That helps us see whether or not there's brood in the cells, which are baby bees or eggs that the queen has laid. We didn't see any on that frame, but there was a really good brood pattern already in existence. Onto the second frame, we saw a lot of interesting things on this second frame. When we took it out into the sunlight, we saw supersedure cells. And supersedure cells are a little concerning, mainly because the colony has decided that the queen they currently have is not doing the job they would like her to. Either she's not laying enough eggs, or maybe there's just something overall with the queen that the colony doesn't like. So these supersedure cells are cells that the colony will make, and if they determine that a new queen is needed to supersede the current queen, there will be larvae in that cell. And in the 3 cells that we found, we did see larvae in them. So we continued on with our inspection, but that was a frame that we came back to at the end, and we did destroy those 3 supersedure cells. We think the supersedure cells were there and created before this new queen was introduced to the colony. So once I do my second inspection, if we have more supersedure cells, then that's something where I would consider possibly re-queening my hive at this point, but I think we're gonna be okay. These are just a few pictures that I took that were live during the inspection, and they show the brood pattern right there. All the ones that have the empty spaces are empty cells, but all of the capped orange yellowish looking things are going to be new baby bees. When I got my hive, the nook has about 10,000 bees in it. So here you can see how full these frames are. Here's a picture of my queen. She's right in the middle. And here's some footage of those supersedure cells that we destroyed. The right-hand side of this frame has honey. So that was the end of my first inspection, and that video ended kind of abruptly. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I will respond to them. But stay tuned for inspection number 2.